As we move into the coming weeks, it is going to be all the more important for us to be the church together, to love and serve and share our light through the ministries of our church. And so at this time, I want to invite our Generosity Chair, Amy O, to come forward. She's going to share our narrative budget for the coming year, which is really the hopes and dreams for how we want to live out God's love in our church and in our wider community. So Amy, please come forward.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Before we hop into our upcoming narrative budget, I just wanted to give you an overview of where we are financially for 2024. And we are looking great. Our income right now, year to date, is about $260,000. Our budget for this point in time is $242,000, so we're ahead of our budget by about $18,000. There's a little typo in the slide, if any of you can find it, but I was doing this late at night, so the numbers are good, just the typo. Our expenses year to date are $241,000. Our budget was $259,000 for this point in time, so we're ahead by about $17,000 in our expenses, meaning we are less than we had projected at this point in time. So we are looking really good. Some of the income, the $18,000 higher in income, is because people gave a little bit earlier than we had projected. So some of that is just a timing. And then some of that, though, is actual increase in giving. And then our expenses, about $7,000 of that, good news right now, is timing. Those are expenses that will happen later in the year. They just didn't happen when we thought they were going to. About $6,000 of that will be captured savings because it is expenses that we budgeted for, but that won't actually occur this year. And then about $4,000, we just don't know if it's going to come in or not as far as expenses. So we're looking really good for 2024. On to 2025. Our plan, as Jenny has talked about and preached about, is moving with the Spirit, engaging, exploring, expanding, and embracing. Council was channeling the letter E as they were coming up with this plan. Cammie had a joke for me to tell. Why is E the best letter in the alphabet? The other letters are naughty. Okay. So on with the narrative budget. And you can count the E words in the narrative budget. But this is just a preview. You guys will all get this next week in the mail. But over the next year, we want to engage. We want to foster relationships across our generations by doing intentional intergenerational activities. We want to build on our connection with the Spirit, enhancing our connection to the Spirit. We want to build on as Jenny talked about earlier, the amazing partnerships we have with Beit Havarim, with Respond to Racism, and with Lotsam and other community organizations. We want to explore by experimenting in new ways to be the church. These will include some new activities and fellowship, new educational offerings, community events, different arrangements in our physical space, which will be interesting, and then different practices in worship. We want to expand by growing in our understanding of faith and justice and who is included in our church's mission. We're going to do this through educational and outreach opportunities. We want to build on relationships both inside and outside of our church to reflect more fully in God's inclusive love. We want to embrace by living into the values of inclusion and welcome all into our sanctuary. We're working on gender-neutral bathrooms, intergenerational programming, and then more of building the community partnerships so that all people experience the inclusive and abiding love of God. So for 2025, our proposed budget to do all of these things is about $374,000. It's a 9% increase over 2024. And for those of you that have been here a while, you know that we categorize our budget into 4 different areas of our church life: our mission, our worship, community life, and spiritual growth. And so you will see those reflected here in the pie chart. So you can see where our spending goes in each one of those areas. And now I'll just talk to you in each one of those areas what our plans are. In worship, we want to engage with the Spirit through more contemplative practices and creative forms of worship. We want to explore and experiment with some new ways of worship, using technology, senses, art, music, and movement. And we want to expand our worship experience through guest speakers and evening vespers and worship in the park. For spiritual growth, we want to engage in intentional intergenerational relationships through worship and then also after church events and activities. We want to explore new connections events for parents and families. This picture is, I think, at a Pickles event. Some of our families got together. Expand our faith practices by connecting with other faith traditions and offering spiritual foundation activities outside of our building and outside of Sundays. In our community life, we want to engage and experiment in more fellowship opportunities outside of worship, like poetry and potluck, pancake breakfast, and like we talked about, baseball games or other fun activities. Expand and embrace diversity in our congregation by working towards gender-neutral bathrooms and education about LGBTQIA+ issues. And we want to embrace all ages and abilities by making sure that our space is inclusive and accessible to all. In missions, we want to explore and expand more ways to reach the community through educational events, retreats, and other activities. We want to engage and expand our partnerships, as we talked about, Respond to Racism, Beit Haverim, Lotsam, and other partners. We're going to be, again, another part of the LO Pride celebration, as we were last year. And then we want to establish a long-term vision for our land and renew our backyard habitat certification. So for 2025, John Warwick's not here today, but I got in trouble last year because I put up too many numbers that were hard to read. So I tried to keep it simple this year. Hopefully it's easy to read. Our 2024 budget was $343,000. Our proposed budget is $374,000. Again, it's an increase of about 9%. And the drivers for that growth are salary increases for our hardworking staff. Our salary and benefits are about 67% of our overall budget. So that has a significant impact, but of course, well worth the investment. New capabilities, and we have a budget set aside for experimenting in the different ways that we talked about. We have a budget built in there for special activities for our parents and children. More budget built in for the LO Pride, for support of the LO Pride Parade, and then also the Respond to Racism events. And then there's some more money built into for our grounds and our building for some maintenance that is just ongoing maintenance. And then last but not least, as everywhere else, costs are going up in every different way, and some of that affects us. Our cost increase in our insurance, property insurance, and then also utilities, et cetera. So those are the things, the factors that are driving that growth, and explain just the increase from 24 to 25. So next week, you'll be receiving this plan along with a commitment card in the mail. And we invite you to support our mission by making a financial commitment for 2025. We can't do this without all of you, without your generosity, without your time and your engagement. And we are truly, truly grateful for each one of you for being part of our church. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy, and thanks to all of you. As Amy said, it is all of us being the church together, giving of our time, our talent, and our treasure that allows us to be the church in the world today. So again, check your mail. You'll be getting all copies of all this in the mail, and 2 weeks from today, we'll be dedicating our commitments. And I also just invite you to prayerfully consider how you might support the church this coming year in your financial giving.